President Trump has real but bounded power. He has real checks on his power. For example, the Congress, the upcoming midterms, the independence of the Fed, the bond market. And so I think the more interesting question is not what President Trump is saying, but what he can actually get done. And I think that's a much narrower list than the headline suggests, perhaps.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the weekly PWM Tea Break Show with my special guest, all the way from New York City, the CEO of BCA Research, Eric Jaffe.
Yuri, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much.
It's great to have you with us, Eric.
Today we're doing coffee. Shout out to Houndstooth, one of my favorite coffee places in Borough Market in London. Very happy to be drinking it.
It's interesting when we talk about tea or coffee because we had the whole Tea Party political phenomenon in the US, which has largely developed into the MAGA movement within the Republican Party. And we had an interesting opinion piece from Julian Samways appraising the US presidency. Voters in the US, they've largely zoned out from Trump's constant pronouncements, while the financial sector doesn't really like to talk too much about the presidency. Where do you feel that relationship is today between the investment world and the administration?
I don't think it's accurate to say that the market has zoned out President Trump. And so the way that we interpret the behavior of domestic or geopolitical behavior is through a constraint-based framework. So what does that mean? President Trump has real but bounded power. He has real checks on his power. For example, the Congress, the upcoming midterms, the independence of the Fed, the bond market. And so I think the more interesting question is not what President Trump is saying, but what he can actually get done. And I think that's a much narrower list than the headline suggests, perhaps.
The geopolitical factors come into your research as well. And I've been talking to a few portfolio managers, Citi in New York, and they're saying the geopolitical triggers are now very much part of their modelling for their investment decisions. Well, Coutts Private Bank in London, they're saying the opposite. They're saying we ignore most of that. It can be a red herring for investment decisions. What is your view, Eric?
Does a geopolitical event trigger the boundaries of a real physical asset and its constraints? So, for example, the recent war in Iran has obviously impacted the price of oil. And we've pointed out that there are sort of top and bottom boundaries on the price of oil and what President Trump and perhaps the Iranians are willing to let it go. And so I think it's appropriate when interpreting geopolitical events to look again at those constraints and what's within the realm of the possible, and to make investment decisions based on that.
I think our readers and viewers are very interested in this research and the research boundaries of the private banks, because Lombard Odier, for instance, very research-based institution in Geneva, and Dheeraj Bajai there, he wrote an opinion for us saying we're looking increasingly at supply chains, at sovereignty, energy, defense, and infrastructure, how important that is for a lot of countries. Do you feel this defense area, because you worked for the White House before in the
Department of Defense.
Sorry, you worked for the Department of Defense in Washington. Do you feel that's a particularly interesting area for investments now, according to your research?
The reshoring, for example, of defense is a real and enduring theme. There are real geopolitical factors that are influencing the United States' decision to reshore some of its defense. We would expect that in a multipolar world where the U.S. and China are jockeying for power. And so whether it's the rise of European defense spending or the reshoring of U.S. supply chains, that is a real and enduring theme that we would provide context and research on in order for our investors and their clients to make the best decisions.
And of course, leadership is really important in those decisions, whether it's of companies, banks, or countries. And Malik Sawar, he was speaking to us about moral leadership. And he was saying, look, a lot of the bank's wealth managers, they're becoming so commoditized now because of AI. They're all offering the same kind of services. But with the trust, you know, that human factor that's so important in the branding. What is your feeling? Because AI can, you know, it can churn out great sounding commentary for the whole week. But how should clients decide which wealth manager to put their money with?
We are using AI. We're seeing our wealth manager clients use AI, and I would certainly recommend that. But you said the right word, trust. At the end of the day, we think our clients who are making complex, consequential decisions need that layer of human trust. And we don't think that that's likely to go away. They will expect that those humans are enabled by and amplified by AI. We think that humans are likely to want other humans to connect the dots that AI can't, right? AI is based on existing information. Humans, their frameworks, their data, at least as of right now, are the only things capable of seeing beyond what already exists into the future and to make forecasts.
A bit like you making your coffee, Eric, because we were talking about that in the canteen earlier on. We had the option of the machine making it all for you and the other machine where you have a bit more human input. And I think you preferred the latter, didn't you?
I did. And Yuri, you very astutely pointed out that that was an excellent metaphor for how we're thinking about AI. I think that's exactly right. We believe that AI is critical to help us be more productive, be more efficient, and do our work, incredibly thoughtfully. But at the end of the day, again, for those consequential, complex decisions, much like you would want to still go see a physician, if you have a medical problem, you're still going to want to speak to a human being about how to manage your portfolio, or in some cases, billions of dollars of institutional assets, which our clients manage.
And we had a great piece by my colleague Nick Kochen, who spoke to Maxim Koretsky from Kharkiv in Ukraine. And Maxim, he was an entrepreneur, painting fences, working in factories, and then he eventually set up a family office and now runs a big operation in Monaco, which he started up with the founders of Monzo and Starling, two of these challenger banks. And when we speak to Maxim, he's saying, I'm a fintech entrepreneur and I'm a wealth manager second. Do you think that's where we are now with private banks, that they have to be technology companies first and private banks or wealth managers second?
I'm not sure that's true. They absolutely do need to have tech-enabled platforms. And so it's increasingly our clients' expectation, and I would imagine that clients of wealth managers as well, we work with a lot of wealth managers, that the product they're receiving is going to be modern, sophisticated, based on the best available proprietary data, and publicly available data. But at the end of the day, they still want to talk to humans. And so, again, I think about it as being a tech-enabled service platform. You've got to be on your front foot for any of these institutions when it comes to adopting and leveraging AI. At BCA, we have a product right now that leverages AI. We've taken our 77 years of research and history and digitized it, and it is now available to query through ChatGPT or Claude. By the way, for our researchers as well as for our clients. And so increasingly, clients, I think, will be expecting that, but they don't just want to talk to an AI. They are going to continue to want to talk to human beings.
So you've had quite a hectic schedule in New York and in your visits to London. Are you having a bit of time off in the summer at all?
No time off. I did just have my first daughter 6 weeks ago. Thank you very much. And so I'm looking forward to getting back to New York. I love London. I love being here. But I now have a 6-week-old who's waiting for me back home and my wife. So I'm looking forward to that.
And of course, your beloved New York Knicks doing very well
Yes.
on the basketball court. When does the season begin again?
The season begins again in the spring, but we're not ready to put behind us this incredible Magic season. It really united New York in a way that nothing else I've ever seen did. Shout out to Jalen Brunson, the New York Knicks. Incredible experience watching them start to finish this season.
Congratulations with your daughter and the
Thank
New
you
York
very
Knicks.
much.
And we're kind of coming to the end of our own season here because we're having a few weeks off in the summer with the PWM break. We hope you all have a relaxing summer, ladies and gentlemen, that you can catch up with families, and I look forward to seeing you all in September for the next episode of the PWM Tea Break.